Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Town of Cedar Lake Plan Commission special public meeting for May 4th. Please stand and pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, Ashley, roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Here.
Mr. Foreman?
Present.
Mr. Sharp?
Here.
Ms. Dussauer? Present. Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Kapora?
Present.
Mr. Wilkening?
Here.
Mr. Oliphant?
Here.
Mr. Austin?
Present.
Mr. Dwightmeyer?
Here.
Mr. Colodis?
Present.
Ms. Abernathy? Present.
Thank you, Ashley. This is a special public meeting at the beginning of the work session for Douglas MacArthur Elementary School. Item 1 is preliminary plat. Item 2 is rezone. Item 3 is the site plan approval. Petitioner here. Name and address for the record, please.
James B. Thompson, architect, president of Gibraltar Design, the professional architectural engineering firm for Crown Point Community School Corporation, and the architect engineer for the Cedar Lake Elementary, the MacArthur Elementary School. Business address 9102 North Meridian, Suite 300, Minneapolis 46260.
Okay. Thank you. This special public meeting was requested by you folks, and we're going to proceed with it with the information we have that was turned in on time. From what I understand, you still had submitted the waivers for Fairbanks improvements and the water main. Is that
Yes.
Is that what I'm to understand?
Yes,
Okay.
provided information to present to the Planning Commission.
Okay. I think that everybody up here, and the quick poll that I did 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure everybody was feeling great about the waivers of Fairbanks. However, I'd like to skip to the water. Mr. Oliphant, this water main extension improvements, Public Works has a problem with this, or doesn't?
Your Public Works Department recommended the water main be extended down 129. That was their recommendation.
And our utilities engineer, Neil?
That I'm not sure. Chris, I haven't heard from Neil.
No, I've not got a formal recommendation from Neil, just our water superintendent.
Okay. Anything from the fire department?
That I'm not aware of either.
We're also still waiting on a recommendation from the fire department.
All right. I guess, considering all these circumstances, perhaps we should get that out of the way first, unless you have any questions or comments you'd like to...
I have information we can present on the water line and information regarding fire safety and those things.
Okay, but was this turned in
Yeah.
before? Was this turned in?
Yeah, it was in the information turned in on Friday, April 29th, as requested. It was in the letter that I understand the Planning Commission received.
Okay. Don, is there still a waiver for the water main?
Yes, that's requested in the letter.
Okay. All right. Well, I will hear that explanation if you'd like to proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Wilkening. And I just think it bears repeating again how appreciative everyone is, the working team, Crown Point Community Schools, for your initiative to keep the Cedar Lake Elementary moving forward for the students and the families here in Cedar Lake. We know it's a volatile construction time, and every day I'm reading about costs and contractors wanting to change costs, increase costs, and that's just money getting pulled away from the benefit of the students in the school. So water line, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Oliphant, if you'll help me, so just open up the PDF. The first exhibit that you'll see, if you can, I'll explain to you, it's a little small. This is a construction plan release from the state of Indiana, and it certifies that all building codes, site codes, Board of Health codes, everything that this complies with, building safety and codes, fire suppression systems, all of those aspects of building and site have been complied with and reviewed by the state. They issue this construction plan release saying the project is suitable for commencing construction from the state of Indiana. Counties, cities, towns, I think the town of Cedar Lake also requests that this be provided prior to contractors being issued permits. So I just thought the Planning Commission and the town would appreciate seeing that we received this after the 29th. We received it on Monday. So, Mr. Oliphant, if we go, just scroll down through the letter. So we do not need to review the aspects of the project, so we'll just go straight to the water line.
Not right now.
So if we just keep going down, and, okay, you may keep going down. The water line, I think, is the last page. There you go, just stop there. So we'll start here. So this is the picture of 129th Street, and there are numerous utilities on the school property side of the street. There is not an adequate easement on the homeowner's side of the street, and so there are technical aspects to providing a water line on 129th Street that are not capable of being met. The most particular of that is the code requirement that a water line and a sanitary sewer line running parallel have to be a specific distance away from one another, which makes the ability to put the water line in not only very expensive, but essentially impossible. I mean, for the right amount of money, you can do anything, but you would not have enough room in, you know how easements happen. There's building the road was there, somebody built a school, house is built across the street, and then you don't have enough room for easements to do the modern, up-to-date town infrastructure improvements. As a compromise for the water line, if we scroll down, that's just this enlarged picture of the same, but scrolling down.
I'm sorry, sir, could you define compromise? Or is that in lieu of? Is
Yes.
that a condition in lieu of versus compromise?
Okay, it can be in lieu of a water.
I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah. So let's, in lieu of a water line on 129th Street, what you see here by this exhibit, and Mr. Oliphant, if you go down one more, that exhibit gets larger.
Do we have this in our packet or no?
It is on page 16 of your packet.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, in order to acknowledge and work with what the desire was, that should a future developer want to develop the land to the west, how would a water line get there based on those nearly impossible obstacles? And so, with additional work that you had requested we do over the last 2 weeks, we see where an easement could be provided to the town for their purpose to direct at any given time for a future developer yet to be named. That yellow highlight then could be an easement provided to the town for a future water line in lieu of 129th Street water line.
So you're in lieu of is an easement, not a water line.
Yes. So the routing and the benefactors of the water line, a developer, let's say, hypothetically could pay for the water line. The school does not need the water line.
I think in our developmental standards, the water line has to go to the far end of the property though, I believe. So the easement's great, but the water line being invisible probably is not so much. Don, this is the first time you've seen this?
No, I've seen it.
All right.
The water line, so the land has value, but that's a cost that the school can gift. The water line itself would approach $400,000 in cost, and we just ask that the Plan Commission consider that that's to benefit persons or unidentified entities, not the families and students of your Cedar Lake Elementary.
Well, some of us have sat up here and gone down this exact road, and it didn't end well for the next person, because they know it should have been done before they got there. Those are my immediate thoughts. Heather, anything?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chris, sorry. Any thoughts? No? Chuck?
So when's it gonna cost $400,000 for you guys just to go on your easement?
To run a water line
Correct.
utility on that easement would be $400,000.
To
Approaching.
do it on your easement compared to going straight down 129th?
Oh, straight down 129th. The first question would be, who would give us the land to put the water line in, so we avoid the conflict with the sanitary sewer line that it would be against code. So there's not room to put it in. So we would either have to go into the street or go across the street to the neighbors to get an easement. Somebody would have to take that easement from the neighbors to run the water line across the street. It's one of those not uncommon in any town across Indiana that has evolved, where, a utility gets put in and somebody else puts a utility in, and it's work that just has happened over 50 years.
Is that how it works then?
Hey, Mr. President, I have a question.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, so the proposed idea of the compromise is a easement going from Fairbanks, where, on the south side of the property?
Correct.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And then will they also give us an easement getting back up to 129th?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. I think that's a good compromise, because I hate to tear off 129th after we just did what we did, but perhaps we need a little bit of money for future pipe, if, in the event, God only knows that, once this lake is cleaned, that whole, new subdivision that we just redid is going to have gentrification happen, let's just say that. Therefore, people will demand and want water, so it's probably pretty important to have our bases covered. I would hate like heck, as the gentleman's asking, to run it down 129, tear up everything we just recently did, be too close to the sewers and everything else. So I think some sort of compromise could and probably should be reached. That's my 2 cents.
Well, that's probably a good thought, John. However, we're not here to redesign things right now. This is a special public meeting. Mr. Becker, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
What does Don think? I mean, he's our engineer. I mean, more than anybody.
We fully admitted from the beginning that this is a tight corridor, especially for water mains specifically, because it does the separation requirements. It's got to be 10 feet away from any storm or sanitary. Gas isn't a huge issue, as far as separation, same with fiber or anything like that, or electric. We have sanitary already in the road on 129, and storm. So putting it in the road is not an option. And we also have laterals, both for sanitary and storm, south of the road, kind of within what will be our future right-of-way. That ties into the main trunk system under 129. The only way that you could possibly fit it on 129th would be either closer to the buildings, or potentially on the north right-of-way, but that is a tight right-of-way as well. There's some homes that are relatively close to the right-of-way as well.
So what would you recommend?
I'm not sure I can make that recommendation. Your water utility prefers that they somehow get it to 129th. Going along to 129th, this is the only way to get it to the northwest corner.
What's the other way?
They can put it in the same corridor that they're expecting somebody in the future to put it.
So along the easement that they're offering?
It's one option.
Is there a reason our utility engineering hasn't weighed in on this? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
I
Who was that?
Chris?
believe you just mentioned exactly what Don mentioned, that it is difficult, and defer to our town water superintendent on the actual recommendation. I don't believe this secondary option was, I believe Don only reviewed the secondary option, not Neil, but I imagine he'd probably give the same.
I mean, it would be a similar call it scenario that Hanover Middle School did. So they have a public water main running through private property, and there's an easement over it. And they've also extended it north and south on 41 to get it to their properties. How they chose to get it there was obviously up to them to an extent. We have to okay it, but there are more than one way to skin a cat.
So do we need Neil's input before we act on this?
I don't know if that's necessary with your, town water superintendent who, he sent an email to Chris and I and said he prefers it goes out there.
Goes where?
That it goes to the northwest corner. We're obviously looking at the straightest
Is
shot.
he's saying an actual water line down?
Yeah, an extension of the water main, or maybe an 8-inch extension is what I understand.
So
Okay, so,
sorry, John. Go ahead, John.
so is he saying some sort of pipe put in and then just capped at each end for future use?
It would be capped at the west end, it'd be tied into the current water main on Fairbanks.
Oh, I see.
And then there would be, associated hydrants and valves on it to meet spacing for fire suppression.
And isn't that the custom and practice of our municipal utility for water utility extension?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So he's recommending we follow our practice and custom. I'm saying that without what's in his letter, we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Don, your best guesstimate about what it would cost to put the pipe in this easement?
Well, I think some of these estimates are inflated, even with today's costs. Even running at
Hang on,
$110 a foot, which is double what we saw last year. I get it, ductile iron's getting harder and harder to find. We're somewhere still north of $100,000 probably, assuming we don't have to do any wholesale utility relocations of public utilities. If we're within our right of way, we can somehow stick it in there and we have an impact with gas or electric. It's really up to them to move it. It wouldn't be on our dime or the school's dime. But if we had to move sanitary or storm, then we're paying for that in some form of fashion.
Okay,
Just to make clear, so Neil recommends we not follow the easement, but actually go down Fairbanks to 129th?
I don't think he's made that recommendation. I think it's just simple. It needs to get to the northwest corner.
Correct.
When it gets there, we're open to however, I think.
But $100,000 to get it from Fairbanks to the northwest corner.
Give or take.
But we don't know where we're gonna run it or how we're gonna run it or.
The only way that I see you be able to run it on 129th would be running it closer to the building, where you start getting away from some of the utilities a little bit more. Like I said, this is sort of unique in the fact that, typically we'll run sanitary down the middle, services come off, same thing with storm, or at least slightly off the right of way. In this case, we have, the sanitary feed coming from the school, it runs parallel to the school and dips back in for a while, and then we also have an old storm sewer line that has been there for a number of years, and it's tied into the new system. So, which most likely drains a lot of embedding their roof lines.
so everything I've heard in the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, takes me to your word evolve. Waiving something like this is not evolving. It's going backwards. That's my thought. Property, and the next developer is gonna be on the hook for who knows what.
Hey, Jerry?
Yeah, John?
Yeah, I think our mission as the plan commission tonight needs to be get the water to the northwest corner. How they choose to do it is fine with us. That's my opinion.
And I agree with him.
So, back to what I originally said, there were two topics in this piece of the conversation tonight. Improvements to Fairbanks being waived and the water line being waived. the in lieu of that's being offered is not a water line but an easement. So you're telling me, John, you're not in favor of waiving a usable water line?
No, I'm not. I think we need, we were pretty consistent with Holy Name and also, our, Father John's, Polish Catholic Church there off 133rd. And we've already set precedent with saying no to those guys, so I think we need to have water to that northwest corner. How it gets there, remains to be seen, and it's not that important to me being a part of the commission. I think it just needs to get there.
Okay,
If they want to do it in the easement they give, great. If they want to pop it a little bit south of 129th,
good.
create some sort of new line, that's fine too, in my opinion.
Okay, thanks, John. Does anybody else up here have any thoughts on this particular waiver?
I agree with what, John said. Is there room, Don, next to you said move it closer to the building, is there room to move it closer to
Height,
the building?
you're likely to take out some trees.
Some trees?
Just looking at the
You
picture
can
right
take
now.
out trees as far as I'm concerned.
So you don't like trees?
No, I hate trees. They're overrated.
We just had Earth Week.
Pardon
We
me?
just had Earth Week.
I know, yeah.
And he raised the charge twice in 1 week. You had to.
I'll go replant the trees, it's okay.
Thanks, Heather.
Okay,
Gotcha.
They also have electric that runs, adjacent to the building there on,
We see that, yeah. I think
Okay.
we see it.
all right,
May I ask a clarification?
sure.
Please.
Just procedurally, forgive me, but, so, would love for $110 a linear foot to be the right price, but the Plan Commission doesn't vote to move the project forward with a not to exceed, correct? So whatever it costs, if the decision is to run the water line in the proposed easement to the northwest corner, which is the requirement, if that cost is $300 a linear foot, because the contractors say that's what it is, that's the cost that the school has to bear, not $110. Like, you don't do it procedurally contingent upon not to exceed the cost. It's just whatever the cost
No,
is.
we're not designing anything or negotiating.
No.
Okay, I was just
negotiating
asking a
contract.
clarification.
It's
Thank you.
put the water line in,
And then we move on.
or not put the water line
Yeah.
in.
Okay,
That's where we're at.
thank you.
That was deft, though. I haven't heard that one before. That was good. That was good.
So,
Oh, I'm frugal and I want every dollar going into Cedar Lake
I
Elementary.
haven't heard deft in a long time.
well, we have,
So I
no
understand
matter
what
where
you're
the school's at, everybody in this room's paying for it.
Yes,
So-
it's your
So
school.
we're all thinking the same way you are.
Thank you.
and all of us on the east side will have to pay the taxes.
Let's not play the east side, west side game here.
Well, that's who pays it,
Well, who paid for all the Hammond Middle School and
the west side.
we're doing it for the community, not for, it's not east and west here.
There's
It's
one
not,
contact.
For Cedar Lake.
there you go.
Yeah. Is he straight now?
Probably not.
They
want
the same exception.
Okay. All right, we discussed the improvements to Fairbanks. We had a quick, poll 2 weeks ago from everybody up here, and I'm not sure anybody was in favor of waiving those either.
I won.
Oh, Bob was, okay. Don, we discussed the NIPSCO, AT&T, all that stuff that was in the, could be in the way.
Yep.
Who pays to move that stuff?
I mean, there's nothing on the plat that says it's in an actual utility easement. So if it's in our right of way, it's going to be up to them.
Who's them?
It's a public utility. Electric or, NIPSCO Electric, NIPSCO
Okay, so-
Gas, or whoever owns the fiber.
So, last time you were here, I was under the impression that you had said you guys were gonna have to eat that. And Don says not. Moving everything. Fiber line, all that, maybe Mr. Taringa was saying that. I'm trying to remember what was spoken. But the fact of the matter is, the only thing you have to pay for is the improvements to the road.
I don't think that's going to be true. I feel like our experiences with NIPSCO and the utilities are that they say, why does it need to be moved? It'll be because of a curb, and then they'll say, well, who needs the curb? The town of Cedar Lake would say the school needs the curb, therefore the school pays.
No, it's a public improvement completed on behalf of the school. It's in public right of way. my understanding, and Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, for instance, 129th, they moved all of those gas mains when we did that project, and we didn't pay a dime.
Does that mean that the town of Cedar Lake can make that happen again?
Yeah, I mean, it's my understanding if there's not utility easement and they're within a public right of way, they have to move for public infrastructure. And, I mean, we've kind of backed off, at least we have a recommendation about widening it, just because it's a new road, and I think it's a cleaner look, not having the widening, that's my opinion, and just pouring it monolithically against the existing pavement, so we don't have that gap between a brand new pavement and new. There could be conflicts stubbing out laterals into the new storm sewer.
So,
And we put we put curb on top of gas main with NIPSCO's blessing, depending on that.
So you're not recommending widening of Fairbanks, you're recommending,
The further out you get, the more utilities you get into.
okay, you're recommending
Curb gutter.
curb cut, yeah.
I mean, sure, everybody wants a wider road, but considering we just paved it last year, if we do the widening, they're always roughly 5 feet widening plus the curb, so 7.5 or 6.5 feet.
Right.
You're gonna have a line down the existing, you're gonna have a seam.
I think everybody has enough background on this. We're not here to design this, we're here to decide if these waivers are going to be approved or not.
May I weigh in on one thing, please?
Yes.
Don Torringa with Torringa Engineering. This property is currently acreage property, it's meets and bounds. Is there actually a right-of-way on Fairbanks? Because that's what we're doing, we're dedicating that right-of-way with our subdivision plat.
There will be. I mean, there's a prescribed right of way, it's being formally dedicated as part of the planning process during this application.
But when we go to these public utilities and we tell them, you're in our right-of-way, there is no right-of-way. And that's a very
You wanna get into the
technical point.
legality of it?
And he used the phrase prescriptive, absolutely, there is, it's been up there since Bob Carnahan moved in.
Yeah, but my neighbor across the street, Mr. Hill, got an attorney and says he owns to the center of the road there.
That's exactly what
He
MacArthur does.
He might, subject to the use. And use is the public way that you drive up and down all the time, Bob.
Okay.
the information that was within our control was a review of the technical aspects, same as the water line for the curb. And I understand the ordinance requirement curbs, I understand the purpose of curbs. Our review said that because of the stormwater change that would have to happen, so the road drains perfectly fine now, and we're doing our site improvements to do that. When we add the curb, we have to add drainage requirements, which requires perpendicular laterals to connect to the stormwater. So our overall analysis is utilities will be moved. I'm hearing that the town of Cedar Lake has the ability to make the cost not penalize your elementary school.
I don't think
I don't think-
it's town magic, I think that's just,
Okay, so I'm hearing that it will work out without that.
Don's given you a history lesson.
I mean, that was my interpretation.
Okay. But you can't, just like you can't say not to exceed a dollar amount, once it moves forward, we're stuck. We are stuck.
Yes,
The
Dave.
the illogical conclusion to the town not having rights in that right-of-way and in those improvements within the right-of-way is that half of this town couldn't be driven upon. Just by nature of how the development occurred in the old section of town, this is legacy land over in Bob's neighborhood, and it'd be illogical as a conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could shut down Parish Avenue.
You could, that's right, John couldn't put a toll booth in.
Don't tell him that, he's out there doing it right now.
John, no, he's helping you.
I'm just
Go ahead.
sad and cautious about, again, the costs that aren't for the children and families in that school.
Well,
That's all.
I'm glad you mentioned the children work. I know this is for the children, and this meeting even going on right now is a bit of a gift.
Yeah, I said that in the beginning.
Let's leave the children out of it, because the children don't have this all upside down, and,
Understood.
they show up for school on time, because they have to.
We hope most of them do.
We hope they do. So, Yeah, John?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so based off of, what I listened to, my thoughts are, you know, moving forward with also waiving the Fairbanks improvements, I think is smart, as long as we have, since it is a meets and bounds parcel today, and they are doing one lot subdivision, et cetera, I think us getting the proper, you know, road width, if you will, to encompass the easements that are there that presently officially, unquote, aren't ours, is nice, especially since we just redid Fairbanks, kind of like what I said earlier with 129th. I think that's a good move in a positive direction, and a good compromise, so we're not just, you know, putting undue burden on taxpayers of Center Township for that matter, as Bob mentioned earlier.
Well, sooner or later, John, the taxpayers have to pay for the curbs and the gutters. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but someday they will have to pay for that, and it won't be any cheaper then, just like ductile iron. Mr. Slatus, do you have anything else you'd like to share?
Staff would highly encourage curb, sidewalk, gutter along this corridor. I believe I can agree with Don on waiving the 5-foot additional road, but curb is desired.
Okay. Mr. Sharp?
I agree with what Chris just said.
Right. Mr. Thompson, you have anything else you'd like to say?
We just appreciate the Plan Commission's special meeting tonight, and just can't say enough about trying to meet that town council date on May 17th, correct?
Well,
Thank you.
we're here to try to not be part of the problem.
Yep. And I think we've got the framework to move forward on hearing.
Perhaps. Why don't you have a seat real quick before I solicit a motion for a vote on this. I want to see if there's any public comment. Anybody from the public like to comment on this item? Anyone? Okay, no public comment? Back to the podium.
Yeah, you have to coach me through this.
Yeah, okay, if you have nothing else, I'm going to solicit a motion for a vote to the two waivers. You're comfortable with that? Yes, Mr. Rush?
Specifically, what are the waivers?
Yeah.
We need to have a really, really clear record here. We'll start ending up drafting into the wholesale.
No, this is,
We need a good description for the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm just jotting some notes down, and I would, think that I have a pretty clear sense of a good motion.
okay, if you'd like to make a motion, go ahead, Mr. Foreman.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat contingent on getting water to the northwest corner of the property
Mr. President.
that MacArthur School sits on, as well as waive the Fairbanks improvements, but add curbs and gutters as discussed in the last 5 minutes.
So your motion, John, to be clear, is to not waive anything they've asked for other than the extra roadway width.
That is correct.
Okay. Would anyone like to second his motion?
Dave's got it.
Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, I'm good if that's the motion.
I'm trying to.
And I guess I should be clear.
I'm trying to work through the double negative here,
Well,
so.
the sequencing is
Yeah.
waivers first. and
Yeah,
then-
John's making a motion that we not waive.
Well, the motion is not widen, I make a motion to approve based on not widening the Fairbanks Road, as long as these, curbs and gutters, as mentioned by, I think, Chuck, do not need to have utilities moved. I do not want to burden the taxpayers with moving these utilities and messing up our road
Okay.
after we just did what we did.
All right, John, I think the motion, okay, would anyone like to second Mr. Foreman's motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Bob's gonna second John's motion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Defcott?
No,
Mr. Becker?
Discussion.
I got lost there for a second.
Yeah,
The
because-
first one I was on board for, and then he switched it up a little bit.
Right, because something about moving utilities, I don't remember saying.
John's redesigned redesign this. His motion is not to approve or disapprove, it's to approve
Well,
with different criteria than what was submitted.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to be clear, because it was breaking up a little bit when Don was talking earlier. But Don, you're saying that we can put the proper curbs without moving any utilities underneath those curbs, is that correct?
No, I didn't guarantee that. I
No.
said that it was my opinion the school would not be responsible for relocation was required.
Okay, I would add that to my motion, I'm sorry.
Mr. Foreman, the issue, what you're speaking about is Don Oliphant was sharing the story about 129th and what had happened in the past. And of course, there's no guarantees of the future, so, that's where we're at with that.
Very
Okay,
fine.
so we have a motion by Mr. Foreman to put the water line in.
I heard that.
Essentially to approve with the exception of the widening.
John made the motion.
Wait, what?
So everything, to approve,
Yeah, he keeps changing it.
so John, to get this straight.
Let me repeat my motion. Hey Chuck, let me just repeat it.
But not widening, and
That's
water,
correct.
and not widening the road, correct?
That's correct. Give the water a place to go.
But you gotta move, you still getting the water to the northwest corner, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The water main, curbs and gutters is no exception, but widening the road
Who's out?
is what, you know, he's granting them the waiver.
Hey, yeah, Chuck, this is just preliminary plat, so my theory is, you know, if we do a motion to approve the preliminary plat contingent on, or with them making sure they get water to the northwest corner, and we waive the widening, where they put these gutters, if you will, is up to them. How they put the curbs is up to them. If in one spot, the gas line is too high and they can't dig down to put a drain, that's fine. Pitch the topsoil and pitch the gutter, if you will, or curb, to get the water to the drain where it works, and I'm happy.
John, their request is to waive improvements to Fairbanks and waive the improvements, waive the water line extension. That's their request. This is kind of a yes or no kind of thing.
Yeah. My motion is to approve
It's like a maybe.
this preliminary plat, as long as they get water to the northwest corner,
Okay, so you're
and
saying...
add curbs on a Fairbanks, and contingent on engineering approval, and however they do that, I'm happy go lucky.
So you're not in favor of waiving the water line?
No, sir.
And you're not in favor of widening Fairbanks or waiving the curb and gutter?
I am in favor of not widening Fairbanks, but I would like to see, as discussed, curb and gutter. How that gets done, I'm not concerned with. This is just preliminary plat.
Okay,
Mr. President,
yes, sir.
we're at the intersection again of what the importance of primary plat is. John calls it preliminary, it's also called primary. This is the substantive decision you're making tonight, and the motion that was made that a vote by 5 of you was, or 4 of you I think was tendered, was to approve the preliminary plat. That's how it started. That's what the record will say when we listen to Ashley's, or read Ashley's transcription of it.
But
And the waivers need to be segregated, so this is clear. We started the motion making, which is fine. Time to make a motion, time to make a motion. But we do it in correct sequence, and so we do not have a Cedar Lake Ministries or project of similar ilk in trying to draft up what it is we have. And right now, it's clear as mud. In fact, mud's a lot clearer.
So, Bob, you are not in favor of waiving the water line, correct?
No, let's let it go down the easement as long as it appears in the northwest corner.
Okay, so it's yes or no, Bob. Are you in favor of the water line, waiving the water line in totality, as it's presented in here?
No.
Okay, and you're not in favor of waiving the Fairbanks improvements, correct?
The widening,
No, Fairbanks improvements,
any of it.
any of it. That's what's in this document. I don't think any of us have a problem with the 5 feet, but we're not here to design this. We're here to vote on waiving it or not waiving it.
I agree with John's motion.
Which one?
Okay, it was the same motion all times.
No, it changed 3
Again,
times.
four people voted, we should finish the vote. The motion was simple. Motion to approve the preliminary plat, getting water to the northwest corner, and improvements to Fairbanks, but not widening Fairbanks.
So your
Very
motion,
straightforward.
your motion is opposite of their request. You're looking
Or it's similar to their request, except,
their request is to waive it, John. Waive it, waive Fairbanks, and waive the water line. That's what's been presented.
and my motion was real simple.
Okay.
It's almost exactly what they want to do,
Their request.
or if you want to look at it the opposite way, you can. My motion is to make them do everything except widening Fairbanks. How's that?
Okay, yes, sir.
May I suggest that you back up the voting that took place and get back to ground zero and let John restate it or make whatever, motion attempt he wants to make, so that it's clear. And legally, I recommend that the waivers be considered separately and first, with some basis for saying. So there's an explanation in this record. It helps the petitioner, it helps us. I
Okay,
can tell you right now, the attorneys in the room will be head banging over, what does this mean? What does that mean? What are we gonna put in here? How are we going to explain this? How is the town council going to consider the PUD zoning map ordinance that includes as a salient piece of it as, the development plans, development agreement? That's.
I'm good with moving my motion off the table.
okay.
The voters all have to do the same.
John, would you like to make a motion on the waivers as presented? Yes.
Sorry, I think the way he's proposing it, there's really only one waiver that he's in favor of, which is the widening. All the other public infrastructure improvements that your staff has recommended, he is still saying they're required. So I think you just need a waiver of that one widening. And you can back up your motion by saying, the water main to the northwest corner and all the other public infrastructure requirements are still required. They're not.
That's correct. So if we have to legally have Bob remove his second, now that I've removed my motion and the other folks that voted officially remove their vote, then let's do it.
Bob, you're retracting your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, and yes.
I'm retracting.
Okay,
I'm retracting as
President.
well.
all right.
So, you've talked about the 2 items, the substantive items for this
Yes.
plat, development and project. There seems to be additional, and I could be reading this wrong, I'm reading the development agreement that references, waivers of town requirements related to several items. Are those part of this, and should they be included or listed, waiver by waiver, so that we can, again, have clean, so they know what to draw on, what they are going to develop, and so that we know what is going to go in and how we handle it. That is not really clear here.
Okay. You understand?
Okay, let me make it clear.
Hang on, John. You understand?
Okay?
Hang on, John. You understand Mr. Foreman's original motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and, Mr. Option's recommending that we do the waivers first. Is that correct, Mr. Option?
It is, and whatever there are on the plat. Plat's different than the ordinance. That's what's gonna be built on the parcel that they identify as a 1-lot subdivision.
Okay.
And then can we go back to John's motion after that?
You're gonna be able to decide everything that's here, Bob, as long as it's understandable. it's not understandable that you can't make legislation. Ultimately, when you're sitting up here with your council, you gotta understand what you're deciding. So that's what the job of the plan commission is, processing with its jurisdiction, the plat.
Well,
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Since we have quite a pile of papers here, where are the additional waivers at?
Well, and I was hoping you would allow Mr. Thomas to identify. I presume, given the professional he is and the skill and long experience he has, that he'll identify. You kind of identified overarching what seemed to be main items, but there may be a list on his prep sheet.
what,
And
Mr.
it is
Oliphant,
public hearing.
what else do you have for waivers?
this is weird with PUD though.
I'm sorry?
This is kind of unique with PUD and the motion in itself. So we're requesting that, we're requiring that they still put in water main on 129. Well, depending on where that goes, we need to show, you know, whatever corresponding easement if necessary, it has to be on that plot. We don't know where it might be. So that's kind of one odd unknown.
Well, that was my point to
Yeah.
Mr. Foreman about the water line waiver.
So there has to be some contingencies on that to say, you know, at least it, you know, be contingent on the engineering review of when or if that information comes in. And my interpretation, or at least my definition of a PUD is how we get around waivers in a way. I would almost put that language into the PUD agreement and not make it a waiver.
That's where I'm reading it from.
Yeah,
That's where it's coming from.
Because we
I'm not
essentially
inventing-
have-
I'm not inventing this.
yeah, but we essentially, I mean, that's the way I would always define a PUD. It gets you out of variances and waivers. It's all in it, codified into a document in a way. So, like, we have, you know, not waivers, but deviations from, just as an example, from R2 underlying zoning, you know, for some of their existing non-conforming stuff like the building, and that's in the PUD agreement right now. So, your
That's in
town attorney can recommend how you want to do this, but that's the way
Well, that means you have to hear and understand and accept what those items of waiver identified in the land unit development agreement are. For example, and this is, I don't know, Cheryl, I don't know, when did you send the 16th of March? I don't know, I'm looking at the development agreement.
This has been updated as of the 29th.
Okay.
It's come in a couple times already, this is the 29th.
I didn't have the one on the 29th, but I'm reading one that it has not been talked about, that recognition of the waiver of the town requirement for parking is sought and variance to continue existing parking areas over the building line is sought. There's a discussion about the number of spaces. We've had this discussion on school projects before, the number of spaces and how many versus what is required under our code conditions. Please remember, we've updated our codes. Maybe they don't apply to this, but we have updated our codes. And that seemed to be an important item. We haven't talked about that tonight. And it could be part of the development agreement, and if it is, so be it. But it needs to be defined, identified, and designated where it's going to be considered. That's just one example.
Yeah. So, having worked with other communities, not here in Cedar Lake, we have always operated as Mr. Oliphant explained. So, first meeting we have the Plan Commission, valuable input, change the PUD document, because the PUD document overarches and eliminates the minutia waivers for each particular item. So, we proceeded with the direction and desire of the Planning Commission relative to things like parking, moving the entrance on Fairbanks to align with the street. And so all the PUD documents have incorporated all those things that you have not voted to approve, but had indicated you would like to see. So that's what we've been doing. And then I'm hearing tonight, you asked me if I understood it, and I do, and I think it's, I hear and see and appreciate the fact it can move forward with one waiver being potentially approved, which is not widening the road, and two waivers being not approved. And then I'm procedurally understanding, we go to the plat approvals and go through the other things, which can have contingents upon this, and then we'll just do the exact same thing for you, update the document again quickly and get it ready for the council.
I think the PUD, of course, has all those things built in.
Requested, yeah.
However, these are the two big ticket items which need to be discussed.
Yeah, we did that.
And, yeah, the widening Fairbanks was discussed 2 weeks ago in a little bit of detail. I asked everybody what they thought. They said, well, Bob said, okay, but the majority weren't real fond of that.
The widening, no, the curve.
Waiving Fairbanks improvements.
But,
We like the idea of the curves.
and we're prepared to address the curves.
So,
Any other waivers?
Hey, let me ask a question, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead.
We are talking about, right now, preliminary plat, is that correct?
Primary plan, one or the other.
Yeah, John.
Okay. Just want to make sure we weren't melding all these together. We have preliminary plat, we have R2 PUD and site plan approval.
Right. We have,
Okay.
we have these two very important items here.
Yes.
Your original motion was not to waive them, but to improve them with, some detail.
Yeah,
and like I said,
my
that's not
first
what-
motion was the waiving of the widening.
Well, I understand that, but these are the two big ticket items that we're talking about. And, what was submitted after our discussion 2 weeks ago was exactly the same as what was submitted before.
Right.
That's why, this special meeting was gonna be difficult, because it's turning into a design and work session.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't want that to happen. I think they should put the water line in, like you said, however they can get it there. But their request is to waive the water and to waive improvements to Fairbanks. So a motion giving them, saying no, but okay if they do all these little details, is confusing for everybody, John.
Yeah. So you're saying you would like them to say they're okay doing
Well,
the
that's why I asked.
improvements except widening?
Yeah, that's why I asked Mr. Thompson if he understood your original motion. So, that's kind of where we're at. So, Jim,
Yes, sir.
after all this discussion, where are you at with the curves?
We understand that the planning commission asked for the curves we put in, and we have done the technical review, so it's another step for us to engineer the drawings.
Okay. So,
And we can do that before the council.
so you're withdrawing your waiver for the improvements in Fairbanks?
Yeah, I actually thought there were two items on Fairbanks, the widening and the
Well,
curve.
we're talking about improvements to Fairbanks. That was the original.
So procedurally, I'm withdrawing it, I guess, yes, so that it can be considered to move forward with curbs. Is that what I'm hearing?
Curves only.
Yeah, that's what,
Okay.
that's what we'd be.
All right, is everybody clear on what,
I don't know how you get there, though.
Huh?
I don't know how you're gonna get there.
I don't know how I'm gonna get there either.
But I like that, I like what you said.
Dion with the Skillman Corporation. Real quick, question confirmation on the curbs. Don, are you able to verify, I believe you said it was your opinion that the utilities, cost to relocate utilities, if required, would be the utilities' responsibility to pay for? I only ask that question because that's a very big piece. I've trusted resources at both NIPSCO and then Install Fiber, and if those two utilities need to be relocated to accommodate the curb, I understand the expectation to install the curb and gutter, however, that is a significant cost. Could be every bit of $350,000 to $400,000.
Well, I'm not gonna guarantee it, because it's NIPSCO.
Don was giving a history lesson.
And based on recent past, in the vicinity, 129th and Highland, which is going into construction right now, they moved electric lines and gas mains all on their own. They acquired their own easements to get them out of the right of way as well. So I consider this a public improvement, you know, whether it's being completed by a private entity. I don't see why that would be different within our public.
curbs and then paying up on
I just asked the question because it looks much different from a budgetary standpoint.
Well, I understand, and you mentioned this 2 weeks ago, and that's one of the reasons That's one of the reasons I think the discussion 2 weeks ago was going down where we really didn't feel great about widening it 5 feet. However, the curbs and gutters were something that we were probably going to expect. So, back to the water line. Where are you at? You've heard all this. Where are you at with the water line? You're only granting, you only want to give us an easement? Is that where we're still at?
I'm hearing that, again, I don't know procedurally how you get there, but I'm hearing that the easement, which is showing the routing of the water line, can be acceptable, and that the water line shall be provided in order for this to move forward, to get to the northwest corner. I'm hoping fire hydrants can be discussed, but if they need to be included, they're included, and we'll work that out with your marshal, fire chief. So, am I withdrawing the request to not do the water line on 129?
No, you're
I'll do whatever to get to that point where I just said is what we want.
If you're gonna retract your waiver for the water line improvement, then that's where we need to, that's kind of where we need to be.
So that then we can route it the way we need to get to northwest corner like we showed.
Yes, and I don't think anybody here implied that this was an grant of easement. This was a water line, complete, ready to go.
Yes.
Even Mr. Foreman's original one was.
Yeah, Mr. Foreman indicated originally an easement. I'm hearing that.
No, he said get water to 129. However you had to do it.
And that's the way we'll do it.
So if we take and we deny two waiver requests, being the street and omission of the water line, we deny that, and we can start from square one again, and then we can say John's motion, get the water to the northwest corner any which way they can, and add curb and gutter to the streets would be a good motion.
Yes, but I don't think if he's retracting those two waivers,
We don't have to make a motion.
we don't have to deny anything or even vote. Is that fair, Mr. Roshan?
That's true, and John, I think what you're saying, is that the two waivers requested would be the subject of denial motions by you, and then I heard you bridge that to, then we start from zero again and redo this, back to John's motion.
Yeah.
Yes, but since we've already retracted the motion, and he's already now changed his request,
Yeah.
it seems mute to have to go backwards.
Well, I haven't heard a total change of requests, but I have heard the retractions, so, okay. Jim, you understand that the expectation of the water line, the easement, and the pipe, and the water to 129th, Mr. Foreman's original request? That's looking like what our expectation will be. Is that your request to us also, that we approve that?
Yes, we need this to move forward. That makes sense.
Okay. All right, so the water line going the way it was submitted that you have now is not a waiver anymore. However, we will vote on it just for clarity. The fire hydrant issue, Chris, Dave, Don, do they need to discuss that away from here?
I don't think so,
I-
as long as on the plat.
Yeah, it's going to be an easement if it's outside of our right of way they're dedicating. I would say any motion that you make, it would be contingent on engineering review, both by, your utility engineer and your town staff.
Okay. Okay, I think we're clear on that. Back to Fairbanks. It sounds to me like the improvements to Fairbanks will include curb and gutter, but not the widening. Is that what everybody's on board with?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, okay, I'm on board with that too.
That's a partial waiver.
Partial waiver of improvements to Fairbanks, yes.
Well, we want to call it that, we want to be clear.
Yeah. Ashley, You need another pen?
I got a second one.
Okay, all right.
Almost there, Ashley.
Okay, so Jim, you understand that part of this too, right?
I do,
The
sir.
Fairbanks? Okay. Not widening it for curb and gutter for the standards. Okay. So, Mr. Kapoor, would you like to make a motion to approve what what we've just discussed? I would if I could, but I can't, or I won't.
All right, he withdrew his waivers,
Yes,
request
for water lines,
and
for the water lines, and for improvements to Fairbanks.
Well, then, I'm not making a motion yet, but then what I would do, say is, that they need to get water to the northwest corner of the property, and I'm not gonna tell them how to do it. And they need to put curb and gutters in on Fairbanks, but no widening of the street.
With exclusion of widening.
Right.
Okay.
For Slattis. Now, are we also approving the preliminary plat with this, or no?
That'll be after you get these waivers, because the plat is dependent upon the waivers. So they draw the plat.
We need to pull these pieces out separately and vote on them because they've changed.
So does that sound like a good motion? What we've been
Yeah.
talking about.
Sound like
Yeah, it sounds like a
about
good motion to me.
It needs to be about
Pleasant.
Engineering comments.
Well, subject to engineering and staff review.
Engineering and staff review, John.
All right, I'll make a motion to, approve water to the northwest corner of the property, however the developer can do it. Also to install curb and gutters along Fairbanks, but do not widen Fairbanks. And this is all contingent on approval and review by town's engineer
And staff.
and staff. I'll figure that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Kapora. Mr. Oster, Mr. Doigtmeyer.
Yeah, it's okay.
Mr. Kapora's motion is tight.
No, but it's sufficient.
Okay, all right.
It's
Okay.
not tight, John.
Okay, we have a,
I don't.
we have a motion by Mr. Kapora. We have a second by Mr. Becker. Ashley, roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Stefan?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes. Okay. We got that out of the way. Item number 1 is preliminary plat. Mr. Roshan, is this ready to go?
It is, it's a public hearing, that has been noticed, and the legals appear to be in order.
Okay, Mr. Oliphant, item 1 on the agenda.
Yeah, it's in order. I would just remember your last two motions there and make any changes to the plat contingent on any changes that will be made when that design information is submitted for review.
Okay. Contingent on engineering and staff review. Okay. All right, you have any questions about item number 1, Jim?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Slattis, anything?
No.
Good, okay. Okay, would anyone like to make a motion on item 1, preliminary plat for a one-lot subdivision for Crown Point School Corporation?
Do you have to ask for remonstrators on this?
Yeah, I have to. You're right, Bob. Have a seat, Jim, real quick. Sorry.
It's okay.
Are there any remonstrance for this item? Douglas MacArthur Elementary School preliminary plat for a one-lot subdivision, 12900 Fairbanks Street, Cedar Lake. Anyone? Okay, seeing there's none, that portion's remonstrance is closed. Building Department, step back up, Jim. Building Department's comments? You're all good, okay. Any commissioners have any questions or concerns? Okay, everybody's good. All right, would someone like to make a motion for the preliminary plat and the one-lot subdivision for 12900 Fairbanks?
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for the one-lot subdivision for MacArthur Elementary School contingent on engineer review and staff review.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Becker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Steph
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, item 2, Douglas MacArthur Elementary School rezone from R2 to a PUD. Vicinity 12900 Fairbanks Street, Cedar Lake. Petitioners requesting a rezone from R2 to PUD to allow for a building addition and improvements to MacArthur Elementary School. Don, you're good?
Similar contingency, to
Okay,
include
similar
town
contingency.
attorney as well.
Okay, Mr. Austin?
I have a lot of questions, and I would ask you all if you have reviewed it, so that, the main portion of the ordinance, which is the development agreement, is acceptable, is accurate, is consistent with the discussions and commitments you've heard here, or discussion pieces that have been had that the school corporation has indicated with their game plan. It's a substantive document. This is the guts of it.
It was contingent on legal review and corrections?
Yes, because I do anticipate reviewing and working with the school's attorney on this. But much like the ministries, as you know, it's how we got it done. It was significant dialogue that was had over a long period of time. The meat of this, though, is yours, and it ultimately is the town council's. So, I don't know, Bob, did you get a good chance to read it? Rick, did you get a good chance to read it? John? I mean, ultimately, whatever is done here is gonna be yours. So I ask that because you can't leave that to the lawyer. That part's the deal.
This is a rezone. It's not an approval of the PUD.
It's a PUD rezone. It's a zoning
Okay.
district classification in our ordinance. It is in the Indiana code. We have codified the Indiana code and made it the Cedar Lake version of same, updated with our recent zone, text amendment, or text replacement, excuse me.
So would a motion need to include legal review and approval by the town council?
Town council has to approve it by adopting the ordinance. There is nothing here tonight if they do not adopt that ordinance. The ordinance will include, or should include, some exhibit conditions within it. I made a list of them. There were a couple of exhibits appended to the drafts of documents we were provided. They aren't all of them.
Okay.
Well, there will be changes. I think the current PUD document kind of reflects some of the waivers that they requested or withdrew.
Correct.
So there's
I'm
gonna
trying to
be
figure out how to
another-
get a motion put together here that is, that reels it all in.
Well, again, Jerry, before you got to a motion, does the commission have any weigh in on the substance in the development agreement?
Does anybody have any questions about the PUD? I mean, I'm
So, Mr. Austin, you're saying as long as it's contingent on exhibits and, other things that have been appended to these, to their request,
proceedings,
would you say, Jerry,
I said these proceedings,
proceedings, okay?
yeah.
Then you're okay with it?
I didn't say that at all, John. I said that your review and checkoff of the substance will allow the drafting to occur of the development agreement in final form and content,
Yeah.
so that
Yes.
the same can be appended after, I believe, legal description, Exhibit B or Exhibit C of this proposed agreement includes the development agreement, and then includes the development documents
Gotcha.
And really need a check off here. This isn't a punt. I'm hoping that you all
Yeah, well, that's why I'm wondering if
have
we should
checked
even
off.
be if we should even be voting on this without a contingency that clears, that, I mean, you made one pass at this, and I saw the pages and all the marks on it.
And I
So-
haven't been able to circulate them until now. I
Yeah.
shared with you
Yeah.
that I did that. Need to share them with you too.
So how, so
Okay.
if this doesn't get if this
When I
doesn't get,
talked, you knew.
if this doesn't get voted on tonight, this is sending everything into a tailspin for them.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Okay,
They want to start moving dirt. They want to start construction, site grading, site plan. If the plat is approved, or primary plat is approved,
okay,
they can do that.
all right. I think we should,
We don't need
I think
to
we
finish.
should, I think we should take care of this in 2 weeks.
Dave, are you recommending we defer this?
I don't think it's ready. I can tell you, I've not started drafting the ordinance. There's going to need to be a certification of the plan commission to the town council. It should contain the proper, not only language, but identification of documents and exhibits from this. Those will likely be mirrored in the ordinance that I draft.
Okay.
And it'll be clean if it's done that way. There may be another clean way. I'm open to yours, but I haven't seen any comments or heard any opportunity on the commission to
Well,
debate it.
we haven't looked through your corrections either. Jim, doing this item in 2 weeks, as Mr. Austin said, I'm not sure that's gonna mess anything up for you guys, is it?
The most important thing I heard was that a approval to start mobilizing and moving dirt is now possible.
I think it's already been
For the
granted.
primary
Without-
plat.
That's what, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, you're good, that's thumbs up at this point, yeah.
And
You
then,
just can't really pull a building permit until you get final plat. So for the actual buildings themselves.
We ought to be done with the ordinance by then,
Yeah.
by the time that's
and then procedurally though, so that Service could notify contractors very clearly, that would mean that they are, that would mean the June town council meeting.
That's what I need clarification on, is what we anticipate is by then, is that first week of June?
Because we were tracking for the May 17th.
Well, this, but we have a
Would be.
yeah, but we have a real, June 7th is the
Next
council
town
meeting.
council meeting.
Yeah, town council
Oh,
meeting,
June
yeah.
7th.
Backload as well.
Yeah.
And that's,
There was a schedule in the development agreement for those components. You broke them out, and you had estimated dates. I do not see from where I sit about what legally is still required, that those timelines are either varied greatly or not. But we need to get comments, I need to get with Attorney Zick, and the commission needs to read it, and we need to send a clean document to the town council. Three of you sit here, and if it goes out of here clean, I'm certain that it's gonna be fairly, the same. I can't guarantee that, but
I think a deferral on this item would be, probably good.
this would be a nice consideration on part of the school to give us
A little more time to get this dialed in.
Work this through.
Yeah.
well, I appreciate knowing that we can proceed with mobilization. That's helpful to the most important ones.
Yes, it is.
June 7th is the town council meeting that we will,
So I need an official request for a deferral on this, item 2 in the, R2 to the PUD zoning.
Jerry, before you do that, would you
Yes.
consider opening the floor to the public on the public hearing component of this? There may be folks
Okay.
here for that.
All right, Jim, have a seat real quick. Regarding Douglas MacArthur Elementary School rezone from R2 to PUD, vicinities 12900 Fairbanks Street. Petitioners requesting rezone from R2 to PUD to allow for a building addition and improvements to MacArthur Elementary School. Is there any remonstrance or public comment on this item?
at this time? Any remonstrance or public comment? Anyone? Any Zoomers done?
No, sir.
No, okay. All right, remonstrance, public comments closed.
Would the record also reflect public hearing notices are in order for this?
Okay. All right, everything's in order. Don, anything else?
Not on this item, no.
Okay. Schlotz, everything's good, okay. So, are you requesting a deferral on this
Oh, I'm the
item?
one that does that? Okay, coach me up, Mr. Wilking.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, so, we are requesting a deferral to the June 7th town council.
You're requesting a deferral
On
for
the
2 weeks back to here.
Right. Requesting a deferral for 2 weeks on the Douglas MacArthur Elementary School rezone from R2 to PUD.
The next planning commission, would you
Next
say what
planning
date? Yeah.
Next planning commission.
May 18th.
May 18th.
18th, yeah. Okay, does everybody understand what Jim's asking for? Okay. All right, would anyone like to make a motion on this deferral?
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Becker,
I'll second.
second by Heather Dessau. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes, motion carries. I believe that concludes.
No, one more.
Oh, all right. Oh, so, yes, site plan. Mr. Austin, this is all good?
This does not require a public hearing, it just requires your action, essentially dropping the improvements proposed into the plat you've just approved, kind of a superimposition of it, if you will, and that's what you have in front of you.
Okay.
I would recommend that we defer it until the next meeting just because of the withdrawal of waivers. We don't have any engineering documentation which is supported by the site plan.
Okay.
For the curves, for the water main.
Okay.
I think we can at least get down that path further in the next 2 weeks. They don't need that for earth moving. We're still gonna issue our plan approval so they can get their CGP and MS4 stuff going. That's really the biggest thing that we have to issue.
Okay, does anybody have any
That
questions?
information going.
Does anybody have any questions about Mr. Oliphant's comments?
No.
No, sir.
Okay. Jim? Any thoughts on Mr. Oliphant's comments?
No.
Oh, no, okay. So regarding the site plan approval, are you requesting a deferral on that item also?
With regard to Douglas MacArthur Elementary School site plan approval, deferral to May 18th plan commission.
Okay. Okay, we have a request for a deferral to make, yes, sir. Oh, okay.
Mr. President, just so the record's clear, if they weren't interested in asking you for a deferral, you could move to continue the matter. So
Okay.
it's really, you're kind of pulling taffy here.
Okay. The continuance would also be in order for a motion.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Becker to continue this item for 12900 Fairbanks, site plan approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Dessauer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes, motion carries. Still moving dirt.
And maybe out of order, I just want to say thank you very much. Being able to move dirt and continue to move this forward is very appreciated.
We really try not to be part of the problem, but
We're getting it
you have
done.
you have a much bigger team than we do here. So, you know,
I may need some help with your staff getting some stuff reviewed, but-
your crises cannot become ours.
Doing our best to not make it that way, sir.
Okay. All right.
We'll see you on the 18th.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Good night, thanks. No, those are up to Ray, those aren't. Okay, at this time, I'm going to, this time, we're going to conclude the special public meetings and get back to the work session.
Don't we have one more item?
Two.
Two more.
Maybe two.
Oh, yeah, special public, okay, sorry. Continuing the special public meeting, item 4, Cedar Lake United Methodist Church, final plat, one lot subdivision. 7124, 137th Place, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is Richard Henry, 8659 Fillmore. Petitioner is requesting a final plat for a one lot subdivision.
Hello, my name is Ken Puen, 13641 Morse Street. I represent Cedar Lake United Methodist Church, and since you're in the mood for deferrals, I would request that the item on number 4 on the agenda be deferred to the May 18th meeting. We had some documents submitted late and weren't able to get it into your queue in time, but we are prepared for the proceedings on the 18th.
If I may, thank you for that. That's appreciated. You acknowledge that it was a little bit late. You asked for a deferral. You have support this.
Yes.
It's amazing. Thank
And I
you.
wish, yes, we do appreciate that, and I'm gonna apologize for you sitting here all this time. Okay, we have a motion for a deferral.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Becker to grant the request for the deferral. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Dessau. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Deskar?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a point, it's gonna be ready in 2 weeks.
Okay.
We just got it on.
Don't even say that tonight.
Right?
Don't even utter those words.
The same.
I didn't bring my throwing hat. Hey, there's nobody in the way, Don. Well, he's a fried ducker.
Yeah. He said
All right.
that before, probably.
Okay, item 5, 13212 Wicker Avenue, performance letter of credit expires May 21st, 2022. This is kind of an update item. This is the old laundromat. Can you expound on that, Chris?
Yes, so I asked, and Don's probably gonna be able to piggyback on what I said. Well, I had this put on here just in case we needed to take action on it. I believe, Mr. Henn, has started making progress in some of the punch list items, that we have outstanding for this particular project. I believe there still are a few outstanding, if I'm remembering correctly, Don?
Yep. So the public infrastructure is actually part of the letter of credit is completed and we're okay with it. There's some remaining stuff that's more related to getting the occupancy permit, to take detention basin, specifically. That's not part of the letter of credit, so it's privately maintained. So as far as the letter of credit goes, the items are in order. So I think at the next meeting, we'll recommend a reduction to maintenance.
Okay.
And the other stuff we're gonna handle in the building department level.
What do you mean you're gonna handle them in the building department level?
We're not gonna issue an occupancy before he addresses the
Okay, so
remaining
how many-
comment.
Okay, what other items are there?
Primarily related to the detention basin being deficient on volume.
Okay,
And he needs to resubmit a as-built survey he did regrade out there, but it needs to be proven by another survey. We don't have that information.
I got a question on that.
yeah.
Didn't he sell the building?
Yeah, we'll get to that caveat.
But, okay, but is Mr. Henn gonna be responsible for it, or the new owner?
Whoever the new owner is?
Correct.
Well, I'm not sure.
So the letter of credit is not being held for what's remaining, I guess is my point.
It's not?
No, it's only for the public infrastructure improvements, which is the sidewalk, concrete, drive apron, stuff like that, stuff inside the right of way.
Isn't there?
That stuff done?
Huh?
Is that
That stuff's done. So the items that are actually on the letter of credit are completed. The only remaining items are part of our, call it a combined review. There's, public and private stuff they need to complete. The remaining items are private.
But
Huh?
there can't be an occupancy permit until those.
Granted, until those are done. Yes, he does not have an occupancy permit right now.
So the water that's sitting where it's not supposed to be sitting has to be dealt with?
Yes,
Should be fixed, because that cutout right by the dumpster is already there.
maybe.
It's
All right.
it's
It's
there.
there, no, I've seen it.
Yeah, and if you go out this
You need
week,
to
you'll see,
shoot some
all the rain
grade.
that we've just had, there's no standing water
Okay.
where it was.
Okay, well,
But he needs to do a reshoot, and we don't have it yet.
okay. We're not trying to slow this down, we're just trying to make sure it's accurate.
So no, we still have leverage to make them complete what they're supposed to complete in accordance with their site plan approval.
Okay.
It's just done through building department at this stage.
Okay, now, back to your question. This is still the original developer's responsibility.
These site plans that were, or site improvements that were part of the approval process
Yes,
that we're talking about remain open, outstanding, and unfinished,
yes.
still part of your responsibility to oversight.
Okay, so then I guess for clarity, is there anybody in the audience that can provide any other information regarding this item?
Other than what I just said, that's all I know right now, that, you know, the apron was done.
Is your understanding, Mr. Teal, that the responsibility of these items are
Is
not
on
yours?
him.
They're not yours?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I just wanna make sure someone else didn't get stuck with the responsibility, you know.
Yes.
And they are staying in contact with me on what's going on with stuff. So it's not like I'm in the dark with anything.
Okay.
You know, Rob's been in contact with me about on a weekly basis with stuff. When the apron got done, the arborvitae's and stuff like that as well.
Okay. Okay, does anybody else have any questions or comments on this item? Chris, you good? Okay.
One question, so will
Yeah.
this remain on our agenda, or is this off now into the building department?
I'd like an update.
I
I'd like it
would-
left
I would-
on there as an update,
Yeah, I would agree with
you
that.
know, when it's ready for occupancy, I wanna,
It's not
Check it off
done,
our list.
huh?
it's not done.
No,
He needs to report to you, he
Yeah.
indicated that he might make a recommendation for conversion from performance to maintenance. That's still a public item.
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we were gonna see this.
It should.
I think, there was quite a bit of discussion with the new owner and people in the know, so he's in good shape with, recommendations.
This letter expires on the 21st, so we have to make 18th is next meeting.
Well, you're saying that they're good to move it, right, to maintenance, technically on what they've done?
In my opinion, they are, because the items specifically in the letter of credit have been completed.
Do you have a request?
Huh?
Do you have a request from the property owner?
No, I'm going to tell him he needs to make that.
So there's still action occurring on that negotiable instrument.
Do we need to set a full date in case there is
Probably
a
the day
gap?
after your meeting,
Okay.
because he'll be making a report
Yeah,
of some sort.
I mean, we'll make a request that we're good with his public improvements, and he needs to submit a request for a reduction, for, you know, rotation, I guess, into maintenance, and hopefully he understands that, and it'll be in hand prior to the expiration of the performance, would be the goal.
Okay. Okay, just so you all know, I've asked Don for the arborvitae for screening. There seems to be some variables with that. I've asked him to get with his people, so we have a standard for, this is the screening for arborvitae. They're this close together, they're this tall, you know, that kind of thing. So we don't get, any variations of that.
Oh, no, like it's gonna be 6 feet and
In 5 years?
8.7 months
Yeah.
times 2,
Yeah.
carry the one.
Yeah.
There will be specific guidelines for species, height at planting, and then spacing.
That'd be
And
great.
they will be
Yeah.
consistent from now on.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, no more guessing. Okay, I think now I can adjourn the special public meeting, unless anybody has any questions. Any public comment?
Do we gotta take any action on this?
No.
No.
No, okay.
Dave, did you get I know you just flew in, did you get a chance to look at the Hanover letter of credit? Hanover Schools has provided a letter of credit, an extension of their letter of credit, because theirs expires May 24th. It's on the update item for your work session,
And the answer is I have not seen it.
okay.
I will in the next 2 days.
Would it be appropriate if the town council accepts it on their next meeting of the 17th, and then the plan commission accept it the following day?
No, it's kind of a reverse responsibility.
Okay.
Does that need a poll date then?
It does.
Because that one's not going to be completed in some form or fashion.
Well,
That's why they've provided the extension.
we meet on the 18th here, right? Plan commission.
Planning
Yeah.
commission,
And the letter expires on the 24th?
Correct.
We got time. We can come to the next meeting
There you go.
and
Fine.
it's gotta be
Four
full,
business
it's gonna be full. It can be reduced, it can be reduced. You ought to know something in 2 weeks.
days. I agree.
Okay,
Place in order and
does anyone in the commission have any questions about any of these items?
No.
Hanover's on our work session, so we'll get back to that, right?
Yep. Okay, now let's, get into the work session portion of this meeting, as it was originally designed. Item 1, Dykstra's first edition, concept plan, R&R Properties, Rich Dykstra, 11003 Lake Central Drive, St. John. Petitioner Rich Dykstra, 11003 Lake Central Drive, St. John. The vicinity is approximately 200 feet west of Morse, on the north side of 136th Place. Woodland Shores Addition, outlots, parcel, part of outlots I and J. Petitioner is requesting a concept plan for a one-lot subdivision. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ken Peach. I am consultant for the owner, Mr. Rich Dykstra. I put together the application for this one-lot subdivision. Mr. Dykstra has owned this for a considerable amount of time. This was a individual lot known as 17212 West 136 for over 30 years. It's surrounded by residential on 3 sides, was kind of an infill site. It was zoned R1. And about 10 years ago, because Mr. Dykstra owned additional property along Morris and had all these separate tax bills, a consultant had advised him then to possibly put it all as one PIN number to save a little money on taxes, which he did. Now we come across a situation where we have a buyer that wants to build a new home there, and so we would like to go back to the one-lot residential. So the zoning hasn't changed at all over the last 30 years. It's still R1. It's just a matter of tax ID numbers. I mean, like I said, up until not too long ago, it had its own tax ID number and address of 7212. So recently, I did go to the county and I did get a new separate tax number for it. That was also included in my application. And so we're here tonight to request your approval of a one-lot subdivision.
Okay.
Sure.
Jerry,
Yeah,
I'm very familiar with the subdivision, and this is an old plot. This isn't a resub.
I don't know what you mean
Show
by
what you're-
resub. I mean, that
This right here, this is like the original one. It's been re-subdivided twice since then.
I don't know about that. What I do know is that it's all houses now on there.
Right, it's been
Yeah.
re-subdivided,
It's all-
and then the lot lines have all been changed.
That I don't know. I mean, I submitted there should be a brand new survey. If you don't have, I can give you each one.
We have that in here.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the property in the corner, that we did a one-lot sub all the way to the west, where it kind of wraps around. That was also an outlot. So that's one reason, he had to get a one-lot sub because it wasn't an actual lot. This is similar, all those outlots did once upon a time extend all the way to Morse. I think it's correct, but if it's not, we'll vet that during the planning process anyways.
This is not on the corner, correct?
No, it's not on the corner. The corner piece actually has a commercial zoning.
Got it.
And And then the one directly north of the corner piece, that also has a commercial zoning.
Okay, thank you. On Morse,
Yes.
got it, thank you.
So you have 16,000 square feet, so we don't have any issues with that.
It's a nice size lot.
Okay. All right, just for clarification, the presentation of this concept only means it's feasible. We've run into snags in the past with concepts that start evolving and all of a sudden waivers start popping up and things like that. I'm not seeing any of that here right now, but just so you're aware.
I mean, we're here to work with you. I mean,
Yeah.
it just seems like that, seeing how to the north, the west, and to the south, it's all residential. It would make kind of a fit to complete that little notch there.
You have no issues with utilities, it looks like.
No.
Okay. Don, off the top of your head, do you see any snags with this?
One, I'll get to it in a second. So this is already platted right away, already part of the Woodland Shores, you know, I think there's been 3 replats of the subdivision over since 1950. It's already curbed out there from a project probably 15 plus years ago now, so that's not an issue. I think there would be the question of sidewalk again, which is typical of one lot subs. The issue is, so when these properties were combined, we just redid our zoning map. It was adopted on March 1st.
Okay.
And your application, I think, is dated the 29th of March. When you met with Jill, she showed you the old zoning ordinance. When this got updated, it got updated all as commercial.
How can you do that without giving notice to the owner?
There was no.
The entire community.
Were you aware of any notice in the mail about that being
There
rezoned?
was no notice in the mail.
You don't
Well,
get
we didn't-
notice in the mail?
No, sir. Not on a master zoning text replacement and zone map replacement. You do not need to do that.
Wow.
So unfortunately, it would have to go before the BZA to get a rezone. I don't think that's gonna be an issue.
Is that would be the only,
That would be the only caveat.
Don, so I'm clear, although that this site was an R2 before, when they combined it, it all became commercial.
No.
No, it became essentially what we consider multi-zone.
And-
When we were going back and making the zoning map changes, it just got missed.
It was zoned through the process of adopting the zoning ordinance. It was then adopted and zoned B2.
B2.
Because I've been trying to sell this for years, and I would come in and I had discussions with Michelle previously, and just because I couldn't understand, I thought years ago it was all commercial, and she kept showing me these diagrams, and no, according to the book, that is a residential lot. And so that's what we've been focusing on now for the last 6-8 months, and we finally found a buyer that wants it for residential purpose.
Yeah, I know you've had that forever there.
Yeah, that sign's there, it's been a long time.
So the right along Morse, those 2 lots, 3, is that considered 3 lots there on Morse?
I think it's 2.
2.
Okay, those are commercial
B.
and will continue to be B2,
Correct.
and all you're asking for is that one little slice in the back to be back to R2.
Back to R2,
Got it.
correct.
And this can all be done contingent on that motion. Not a big deal.
well, this is a work session.
Huh?
This is a
Yeah.
work session, so.
Yes, but he can get going, for that application to get on BZA probably for June, I'm guessing, if I can get on that.
Yeah.
Well, this is zoning ordinance amendment, isn't it? A zone map amendment? Zoning district classification needs to be restored or returned.
Does he need to apply for that though?
He does.
Okay, yeah. That's what I'm recommending, yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I'm gonna need your guidance, you tell me what you
So-
want me to do.
So, Chris, can you get him pointed in the right direction, in the very near future?
I'll work with Dave on that, yeah.
Okay, all right. Since I do have, one of the BZA buddies up here. Don, that's all you're seeing here right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's already, it's just kind of a weird one how they platted this with a bunch of these outlots that went all the way across it, and they've been kind of, some of the replats over the years corrected a lot of that, but some are still hanging out here like this. So,
I got you.
It was just a really odd subdivision. Back in the day, yeah.
They all turned out to be houses, that's all.
Exactly. They platted these very long outlots with very tiny lots, and then they came back and pretty much said, why did we do that? And extended them through the outlots and got rid of the outlots over time.
So this has been residential for years,
Yeah.
and then with the remapping, it
They did.
changed to.
I don't know if it was a resort thing back when they did it, and they wanted common space behind the buildings, but they were very tiny lots to start. They were really like the front square.
Yeah.
And over time, they started re-subdividing it and getting rid of the outlots, but they didn't re-subdivide the entire subdivision. It's really weird.
That's how it was done in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So they need to go before the BZA to get it rezoned?
Rezoned back to R2.
No. BZA doesn't do rezoning, they do variance.
Variance.
Plan commission does rezoning.
So do they need to go to the BZA then?
I haven't heard anything that says why they would go to the BZA.
Okay.
I haven't seen this subdivision
So,
or
It'd
survey.
be rezoned through this body to council.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is,
And the plat, of course, is here, it's supposed to be,
They know BZA.
okay, no BZA.
My bad.
So does he have to reapply now? Because that's not what he's asking for. Can we do that?
well, he can't have what he wants if he doesn't do what he needs to.
Well, this is just a concept.
Just a
plan.
concept.
The concept.
Still a
Why do you
concept.
sound like my wife?
I don't know, or if she's a smart woman.
So we can just refile his application with the rezone checked on it.
I think he's only filed the concept
Oh.
plan application right now, so.
Okay. Then, yeah, just the actual form application.
It's a
Yeah.
flyer.
Can we
Just see how you
do that
feel.
all at once, the rezone along with the site plan and all that other stuff?
That would be wonderful.
It should be done the same night, same sequence of hearings.
That's even
I got
McCarthy.
so
Tonight,
novels
we
with
saw
all
it
that.
at school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Everything they were asking for was on the public meeting
Let's not make
agenda,
that
for public
mistake.
hearing and consideration.
You check an additional box on your next
School is a
application.
lot of drama, this is.
Don't hope that.
Yeah.
So can that be done in 2 weeks? Or does he have to wait till?
He doesn't know, he wouldn't be able to get on until June.
Until the June.
Couldn't do it in 2 weeks if his life was
June
on
plan
it.
commission,
Gotta
maybe
go to
early,
the,
to get his engineering done and all that.
get
My
platting.
engineering?
Yeah, it's
What
done.
engineering?
Is that your plat that you submitted?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Well, then there's waivers.
what am I engineering? I mean,
It's just a plat. It's one of your plat.
here.
Have you seen our subdivision control ordinance?
Yeah, we got it. So once you file the application with the preliminary plat check, then
That's
the
our ordinance. Gotta follow.
rezone.
Okay.
Chris will get that for you.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, the surveyor was great, he said any changes that were used or things that we needed to
We'll review
take
it.
care of it.
And can we give him a deadline for that, so there's no confusion? To be on the next meeting, he needs to apply by when?
He couldn't be, Heather, he couldn't be on it with the
Well,
notice requirements.
Whatever meeting.
It's like noon on Friday before.
No. Yeah,
2
he's
weeks.
got a month.
I understand that, I just wanna give him a date, so that way he has it.
Oh, the date,
Have your stuff here by this date. What is that? date?
Friday before?
Well, what's
That's
the,
actually-
If
He'd
he
work
were to get
that
on
out
the
with
June
Chris.
plan commission, he needs to file Friday by noon,
This Friday?
this Friday by noon. Otherwise, the next filing deadline would be the 1st of June for July.
No.
That's how the filing.
I don't wanna wait till then, so whatever I need to do for Friday, I mean, or is it?
Come in
a whole lot of work.
tomorrow and
Yeah.
start filling out the application.
Can someone spend time with him tomorrow? I mean, make an appointment to get here, get it all done, whatever you gotta do.
I'll do whatever I can do.
Yeah, we, part of what you didn't hear from the school situation is that they were told numerous times 2 weeks ago that Friday before at noon was the deadline for information.
Your letter.
And 11:59, the stuff showed up, but not all of it.
Yeah.
So, there was a choice to cancel the whole thing because they didn't meet the deadline criteria, or try to be a little flexible with them and kind of mutter through it, and there were a couple big ticket items that they wanted waived. And, you saw how long that took to straighten out.
I understand.
So, Friday at noon Friday at noon is the Friday before a Wednesday meeting.
Okay.
That's so staff can get their stuff done, our engineer can get his stuff done, legal can get their stuff done. We can look at it over the weekend when we have time. That's the reason for these.
Well, actually talking about advertising deadline, correct?
The filing deadline for
Yeah.
the application, yeah.
Yeah.
They're two different Fridays this month.
That's true, and there's 2 different dates built into that. The newspapers are 10 days before the public hearing with the notice, which I check off on.
Yeah, well,
And that takes 4 days lead time, business days. So it's plus 14 days.
What all that means is that you have to have your application in by this Friday. They can help you out with the rest of the deadline.
Yeah, I'll work with you guys first thing in the morning if you like.
you may run into a time problem because of lead time and advertising, but
If we can't get it done, we can't, but I'd like to.
the soonest you can get started is tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
Anything else, any questions?
does anybody else have any questions?
No.
Everybody's good with this? Okay, Chris, anything? No, Carnahan. John Foreman, are you still there?
Yeah, so essentially, he's just trying to keep it R2 and maybe sell it as a house or something.
That's
Or
what he-
a lot for a house.
That's what we were told, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Brian?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, building regulations and fee amendments.
That's me.
That's you?
We're working on it.
Okay, that's being worked on. Update items, we talked about 13212 Wicker. Item 2, Hanover Community School Corporation, expiration of the performance letter of credit, May 24th. Don, is that gonna work out okay?
Hanover?
Yeah,
We hope.
okay.
I mean, if they have something in hand, I guess we just need to review it, make sure it's all in order. If it's a full rollover, then we have nothing to review from our end.
Okay,
That's exactly what they, for my review, and then Dave has not had a chance to look at it yet, but they've provided a full rollover letter of credit.
okay. All right, well, just give us a quick update on that whenever you get a chance. I mean, just leave it on here, like Heather mentioned. Item 3, Beacon Point Unit 4 Performance Letter of Credit expires June 11th. That's, is there a snag with that,
I
Don?
haven't heard boo with them
Okay,
about that.
well, they have a lot of, Beacon, that's on the west side of,
This is Beacon 4, so it's actually, the issues were actually.
west side of Parrish.
East side of Parrish.
Okay, this is Beacon Point East.
The southern, no, it's like
No,
Beacon
it's just
Central.
Beacon Point.
The
Beacon Point
original, I'm
East.
sorry, it's the
East
south.
of
Beacon Point.
Yeah, the
Beacon
south is
Point.
the original.
Okay,
Should've named them something else.
yeah,
We should have named them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had some issues on 141st paving,
oh,
so,
okay.
which I know they haven't done yet.
Well, let's just leave it here, and we'll keep chipping away at it. Okay, is there any public here tonight has any comments? Mr. Austin?
Mr. Chairman, I have one thing.
Okay, John.
After public comment is fine.
Oh, okay. Mr. Austin, what were you gonna say?
We had tonight an example of why applications by petitioners for waivers is important. We had to figure it out tonight for the school, with the school, exactly what their substantive waivers were. There is language all over the documents about waiver. There is discussion in the development plan and agreement about waivers, variances, the phrases and the terms
Yeah.
and the legal meanings all get interwoven and kind of sausage-like. When the planning department taking in the applications require or request clarification of the waivers, the exact waivers being sought from our subdivision control ordinance on a subdivision plat, that makes everybody's life, theirs and yours, a lot easier. Then we don't have to wonder or make sure we covered something or we interweave it or whatever. That was a good job John did in getting it started. The dialogue had to evolve from there, and it took a while to get to the finish line. And it wasn't tight, John, it wasn't tight, it was sufficient. It worked. So it's our recommendation that we consider that practice going forward, so that the substantive review analysis and decision-making you have on plats can be easier to undertake versus harder.
Are you suggesting that any of those deviations in a PUD or waiver form, any of those deviations be listed separately?
Yes, they actually only apply to plats. The development agreement will contain the deviations, if you will, from our code, the nuggets of negotiation that we've engaged in, or that you or the town council has engaged in with the developer. But I'm talking about the subdivision plat. And it's not gonna be less. Going forward, there's gonna be more. That's how it works. It's gonna work that way as our town continues to evolve. and grow.
Are you suggesting that a petitioner be given that instruction up front?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is there a
and with
form?
some guidance,
Yeah,
guidance
is there-
about what it means.
Is there is that on the application that they get now? Is that on any document?
I don't think so.
No?
Not in any substantive way.
Okay.
I don't think you can lay it out, it's case by case, because there's opportunity for waivers everywhere.
Yeah, but if you had a form that had the deviation.
But at least there's a check the box and you can ask for the explanation. And engineers like Turenga have been in business for 50 years. They know.
Yeah.
DVG comes in here. They know.
Yeah.
So, we're not talking about, the one lot subdivisions that Mr. Puent is coming in on. That's not what we're talking about really, because he'll ask for a waiver for everything. It's coming.
Yeah.
We have an example of that with O.B. Taylor.
Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
So, going forward on our sophisticated projects, that might be helpful. It's your call, but just a suggestion.
Do you meet with all these people, Chris, these kind of things, or does building staff, or?
Building staff, right now, yes, me. I prefer not to be, that's why we're searching for a planning director.
Well, if you have a thought or idea about how to get these deviations itemized, that would be really helpful.
Don and I have been tossing around, and Michelle, and Tammy, the whole building department and Don, I've been tossing around ideas on how to streamline the process, create, just as Dave mentioned, attachments that could be given out that maybe aren't completely instructive, but at least provide a greater level of detail than someone who could be walking off the street and never built a house before, can at least understand what's going on to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah, better's always better. Okay. Mr. Foreman, what were you going to say earlier?
Oh, yeah, a couple things. I had some correspondence with, gentleman just in between Beacon Point East, Mr. Wankoop. He's been out of town for a couple of months, got back home, there was a lot of garbage from the subdivision that had blown up against his house in his yard. Also, his wife's had a hard time mowing that embankment, and are we involved, Don and Chris and everybody, are we involved, do you remember, in the pitch of the west side of this property and or the north? I don't think we were. I thought that was a private transaction by him and the developer.
Yeah,
There was a private, they sold, I don't know if it was 5 or 10 feet to the Shillings.
Yeah, there was a private transaction, John, and, there is a bit of an embankment there, but that was all private.
Okay.
And
then what about our new zoning, the other thing I was talking to him about, he has a meets and bounds parcel. It was never built into a one-lot subdivision and or incorporated into the plat with the subdivision of Beacon Point East. Therefore, when he wants to get a new garage permit, does he need to get a one-lot subdivision for that or not?
Yes, he does, John.
If you need the building permit pulled.
I'm looking around the room and everybody's nodding. Yes.
And the reason I even asked that question, and I sort of knew the answer, is when we redid the zoning ordinance, I thought we were trying to make it easier for pre-existing lots that were in the old Cedar Lake, if you will.
Yeah, I think that was for remodeling and stuff.
You know, sooner or later, his property was gonna have to be cleaned up, and I mean legally on paper cleaned up, because he sold property to the west, he sold property to the east, and all that was all dialed in, I believe, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's what I thought. I thought he would have had them make a one-lot subdivision for him. It would have been a no-brainer.
He had, in conversation a long time ago, a couple of years ago, he had mentioned a garage, to myself and Mr. Kubiak in that company. But we never got into the meat and potatoes part of it. But, yeah, it's, the embankment is, not desirable, but he sold that west side. That was between, he and, Mr. Schilling, I believe.
Yeah, I got it.
So, you have a question?
I have two quick things, if I may.
Yes, yeah.
So the PUD that you're reviewing for MacArthur, we're gonna see that again before the next meeting.
I'm going to circulate my review comments on the development agreement, and I'm going to clean up that document based upon what review was made. I'm gonna share it with the school's attorney. I would say inside of 2 business days, you're gonna have my marked copy, sometime later next week, cleaned up copies.
Perfect. And then my second question, is there a reason that the special meeting can't or should not be at the end of our work session?
I didn't request an adjustment of the agenda in time. But,
No, we always do, have always done. If we add something at the special meeting, it's always done before our work session. But there's been occasions, such as today, and other occasions, special meeting is just that, it's special. We're allowing them to come in because of
Okay.
timing or whatever the case is. But then we have people that have done things correctly and filed correctly that now have to sit through a potential
and
hour and a half.
And the packet had already gone out when I attempted to roll those agenda items over.
But, I mean,
Is there a
just
different
overall though, couldn't we just going forward, I'm not
Oh,
pointing fingers
yeah.
at all. I'm
Oh,
just
no,
saying,
no.
in general, wouldn't it be beneficial to, or make more sense to
Okay.
have those special meetings after we have our normal work session? That way the people that are coming to these work sessions aren't penalized time-wise
Yeah,
to sit through a special meeting.
they don't have to be special, just the people at the end.
Exactly. And
Standard
they,
operation procedure.
Could we also have a discussion piece about what special meeting means?
Yeah.
And what a requirement for such might include?
Yeah.
For example, there are communities in this county who will allow, on request and good cause shown, a special meeting. But among the good cause detriment to the requesting party is the payment of a fee for all of the expense incurred by the town on its special meeting scheduling.
oh,
You're
I don't wanna
here
get into
and you're
this-
being compensated, but the taxpayers are paying you.
I'm,
So having a fee for special meeting outside of the normal schedule, something extraordinary or for good cause, and you allow that to happen.
But we're already here, so why should it be any more money?
Why?
hang on.
Because you have people investing time, Bob, that are citizens up there, just like citizens out here asking for it. There's cost to the taxpayers out here, that's what the petitioner should be considered to be paying. If that were a justification you were looking for.
I wanna come back to that, but Ashley, Chris, Bob, does anybody up here think that what Heather said, specials at the end? Anybody have an issue, anybody have an issue with that?
I think it should be at the end.
Okay, all right.
That's the direction of the plan commission, and staff will just advertise it as immediately following the work session.
Yeah, that would be good, that'd be good. Everybody good with that? Okay. Mr. Foreman, you good with that?
Yeah, it's completely logical, makes total sense.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
And I was under the impression that we have been trying to eliminate as many special meetings as possible. And all of a sudden,
everything's
we
special.
bunched up with a bunch of them,
Everyone's
And
special
I'm
now.
sitting there saying, Geez.
Well,
Only the vice president, I
this,
can't stop it.
yeah, this was, not the best case scenario, for sure.
No, I thought what they had up there
How about the
tonight
children?
wasn't special.
It's about the children. It's all about the children.
Diddlings are diddlings.
Yeah,
Well, and just to be clear on that, not to beat a dead horse here, but they keep saying that water line's not gonna benefit the children or the parents of the children. If any of that area gets developed,
wait,
$10 to the school.
we're all paying for the water line, it doesn't matter, put it in. We're all paying for the water line, and deviations, especially a waiver of a water line at this point in time, in this town, is,
Fire hydrants?
We have had.
not even that, I'm talking about setting a precedence for the future,
We have had
the close
two
future, no way.
major issues with the water system in that part of town, right by Bob's house.
Yeah.
The one was, the extension of water mains for fire suppression and difficulties in doing that. And the second is what is in process right now, the commencement of construction of the, 250,000 gallon tank. And that water line could be important to looping, pressure, volume, supply, service in the area.
Bob's gonna have so much water pressure when that water tower goes up.
We have a 320 deep rock well that cost $6,000.
Yeah,
cheap.
it better not go bad, Bob.
That's cheap.
It better not go bad. Okay,
Anyway.
back to your fee for special. I gotta tell you, immediately, this smells like sidewalk fee in lieu of.
Well, that's
Taxpayers
not-
are already paying us to be here, and if there's
So are
If
you
there's,
paid on-
if there's definitely a target that I'm missing, I'm
Are you
all
paid
in.
on a per meeting basis or a monthly basis?
Who?
You.
Meeting?
That's the question. It's in the salary ordinance and I don't know the answer. I'm asking.
meeting.
Bob, are you paying your plan commissioners a fee per month or a fee per meeting?
Per meeting.
Per meeting, it's per meeting.
Okay,
per
so
meeting.
you're coming in here, thank you. You're coming in here for an extra meeting a month, if you grant a special meeting.
We probably won't get 2 checks for tonight. Will we?
Which-
No, but I'm listening.
Everyone's special.
Well, not that special, you'll have to define special.
Well,
Well, if we're gonna, well, then I'm gonna get, now we're gonna get to that, there's a special fee. But where does that fee end up?
Double check.
Beer
in
and
the
pizza.
sidewalk fund, I got what I wanted.
Beer and pizza.
You know, like.
I don't even want it, let's put it all towards the sidewalk.
I mean, that's true, but there's a cost to advertising.
Well,
would the council ever request
Cost advertising, cost to have you here, cost to have Dave, I mean.
Oh, well, that's
cost to
true.
have lights on later.
That's true. There's an extra. Well, I guess the question is,
Those are business calls.
Don, are we charged by the hour that you're here, or per meeting?
Hour.
Oh,
There
okay,
you go.
well, there it is. There it is. There we go, Don. Out of here.
I'm in the same boat with him, we're
Yeah.
rolling together happily ever after.
Mr. Austin, if I may, you said neighboring communities or some communities,
There are some around here, Lake County.
is some the minor or some the major?
I'd say it's minor.
Yeah,
I'd say it's minor. It's communities that, want things special to be really special, to call their team in.
well, I mean, the thing is that maybe if there's a little bit of accountability, AKA a fee, people wouldn't be in such a rush to be special.
That's one of the reasons. It's a
Or they give their
deterrent.
stuff in on
It has
time.
deterrent.
Or they give us
Exactly.
something at a time. And if they
Well-
wanna be special, then you pay the fee.
You know,
So I guess,
we talked about this today in another venue. Jerry and I talked about the, meetings and the, kind of the urgency that gets put in front of you, the pressure that comes, and how many times have we found, we never get everything finished. We get asked for special benefits or special considerations, and sure as heck, it's too tight a time frame, because Skillman's sitting in the back saying, we gotta have a schedule met, and now we have to try and meet their schedule. When we know what it takes internally, we're all locked in on the schedule here. That's why noon on Friday means something. But we know in the next couple of days, we're gonna be circulating PUD agreement documents. We know an ordinance is coming. We know prep of a meeting is, well, a meeting is 2 weeks from tonight. And, you know, you have, 8 working days between now and then.
I guess we'd have to decide what a fee is. I mean,
how much is an application fee?
Heather did some math earlier, and I had her figure it out.
I always got numbers going, you know that.
Heather, what do you think the number should be?
Oh, man, you don't wanna hear my number.
No, I do, because I have a number. I have a number. That's my number.
Yep.
I mean,
That's my number. That doesn't cover everything, but that's my number.
I think it's a good discussion point, Chairman, and I think we should discuss it, but we don't need to beat the dead horse tonight.
Well, I just brought the horse out of the stable.
Yeah, we're
we're
night riding, John.
Running around.
Yeah, I know that.
Hey, this is a work session, if you gotta hit the bricks, I get it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'll be kind and loyal.
okay, all right. Ashley, you had a question or comment?
There's no fee for a site plan, PUD amendment, or concept plan. A public way vacation is a $200 filing fee, rezone is $100, and preliminary plat is $275 minimum filing fee.
Where's this at?
It's on the it's on the planning application that every petitioner signs with the town.
You got one with your concept plan.
Yeah.
So somebody can come in here like Mr. Puant with Mr. Dykstra on a flyer on a one-lot subdivision, and it doesn't cost them a thing. A good survey, and come on in.
Well, I think the concept should probably stay that way.
Again, that's your call, but when you monetize the request against the service.
Yeah, well, meeting's a meeting, and concept is a concept, and we're not here.
Well, then there's the other side of the coin, Mr. Peach, that's me, is the taxpayers may say, well, we're already paying a lot of taxes for a lot of services, why do we have to pay this?
You told us you were his consultant. You taxpayer too?
I'm a taxpayer too, though.
Yeah, okay. Seen your picture around, I know.
No, those are
what you do.
Those are all comments. All of us sitting up here are also taxpayers.
Yeah.
And
Well, you guys
whether it be Hanover.
You're not compensated enough for what you do.
Oh, there's a lot of abuse for this, yes.
Yes, there is.
We have very dark personalities. This abuse.
No,
Abuse is really, yeah. So.
I didn't have a good idea having the meeting behind the work session, then all the educated experts can get an example from Pastor Ken when he gets it right and they can't.
There you go, yeah, see, that was amazing, and they were already gone, they didn't hear how happy I was.
The children would have been on time. So.
Hey, I do have one more comment, Mr. Chairman, then I promise not to say anything else.
Hey, we're here all night, John.
Don't promise that.
The pedestal is not symmetrical with the sign on the front of the desk area, so we gotta fix that. It's driving me crazy.
Oh, that, yeah.
The podium. The podium is in the center.
The podium's not symmetrical with the camera.
I did that once, and apparently got moved.
Oh, well, the whole room.
The problems we're fixing here.
The whole room's, yeah, no, you gotta go, you're saying it's gotta go east, right, John?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's gotta go east. I'm in the lineup.
And you're the only one that knows that tonight.
Now Jerry needs to go east too, he's not symmetrical either.
Yeah, that's true, but the iPad hits the microphone, so that's where I run into problems.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, perhaps somebody ought to hit this with a tape measure, first thing in the morning.
I think I'll meet with Tim.
I didn't say Tim, you said Tim.
Oh, Tim.
Oh, he'll definitely get some.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone have any other comments, questions, concerns? No? Everybody good? Okay, party's over. Meeting adjourned.
Turn after that.
Thank you.